Hello, everybody. Take two. We watch Shudder.
Oh man.
This is what I get for deciding, hey, I can watch the movie early today. We can record the episode early. And then everything is technical difficulties. This is the second time we started this episode, guys. I should probably tell you why we're here. Why are we here?
To watch Shudder.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's right. We watch
We
Shudder.
watch
That's
Shudder.
the name. We do. We watch Shudder, and then we talk about Shudder. My name is JD. Who's here with me?
It's Michelle with all the
It's
technical difficulties.
Yeah, this never, ever, ever again will we record in the middle of the day. Clearly, that's what went wrong here.
I think so. We are night creatures.
like we do, we talk about new, original, and exclusive releases from Shudder, the horror and horror adjacent streaming service. Today, we're talking about one that I believe is also out in some theaters. It is a sequel. It is called The Reef. Stalked. Michelle, you've never seen The Reef pre-stalked, right?
Yeah, I've only seen The Reef when it was being stalked. We agreed not to watch the first movie.
Right.
And so we just watched the sequel.
Right. So
Uh,
Michelle
yeah.
has never seen The Reef. I have never seen The Reef. We have only seen The Reef Stalked. Like we do, I'm going to read you the Michelle, how do your levels look? Are we going to have to do this again?
My levels look good.
Okay,
I'm
awesome.
I'm hopeful. I'm feeling very confident.
I'm very positive.
That this will at least be recorded.
Real professional show, guys.
Oh God.
I'm glad you're here with us. The Reef Stalked, as we do, I'm going to read you the summary directly from the Shudder website. It says, in an effort to heal after witnessing her sister's horrific murder, Nick, her younger sister Annie, and two close friends travel to a remote Pacific island for a kayaking and diving adventure. Only 2 hours into their expedition, the women are stalked and then attacked by a great white shark. To survive, the women will need to band together, and Nick will have to overcome her post-traumatic stress, face her fears, and slay a monster. A Shudder exclusive. Michelle,
Yeah.
spoiler-free thoughts. Hit us with your quick opinions on this one. The Reef Stalked.
Since we agreed not to watch the original movie, I feel like we missed a lot because I want to know what they did to piss the shark off so much. Clearly, this shark had a vendetta, and nothing in this movie explains why. So they apparently did something to really, really anger this shark. I don't want to victim blame, but I am going to. Um, it seems like these people wanted to be killed. They made all the wrong decisions. Nothing in this movie really made sense. But I did like occasionally they put in some shots from National Geographic of sharks just swimming around being sharks. And for that, I will give them a 1.5 skulls out of 5 skulls. And that half skull is purely because I like sharks. And I'm glad that they gave me some footage of one.
Yeah, so The Reef Stalked. There's Michelle's spoiler-free thoughts, and
Yep.
mine are not all that different. The Reef Stalked, a.k.a. Jaws 85. It's a shark movie. That's really all you need. There's one of two shark movies. There's either the serious shark movie or the ridiculous shark movie. This is not the ridiculous shark movie, and therefore it has virtually nothing that I was even remotely prepared to care about. I'm going 1.5 skulls as well. That's really all I have to
Perfect.
say about it. That's not spoiler free,
Yes.
because I don't know. Sharks just. We'll talk more about why, but the whole shark thing. Like I feel like once we had Jaws, that was all we needed, and yet here we are in 2022, and we're still making shark movies.
And then we're
Uh,
making sequels to shark movies.
Right, exactly. And, well, we'll talk more about it here. If you want to go see The Reef Stalked before we rip it apart here in detail, now is when you're going to want to do that. Hit that pause button right now. So,
Woo.
Michelle, yeah,
hmm
here's the very first, like, tell me just in general, how do you usually feel about a shark movie?
I am fine with a shark movie in concept. It is very rarely executed, but it is usually done in the form of Sharknado or something along those lines where they're like,
Right.
isn't this silly? Because there's a really easy way to not get eaten by a shark, and that's to not go in the water
Don't
with a
go in
shark.
the fucking water.
And these
Yes.
people in this movie, they're like, we're out of the water, we're safe. Maybe we should go back into the water for a while.
Yeah.
Constantly.
That's kind of my outlook on shark movies in general. Like, obviously Jaws was a big deal and it's a great movie and I enjoyed it. But more so than, first of all, like, I don't understand what's so scary about sharks, because as you so lucidly pointed out, sharks are really, in the grand scheme of things, one of the least threatening things you could ever put in a movie. Because the ultimate solution, like, are you afraid of being eaten by a shark? Well, don't go where the sharks are.
Yeah,
Like, the
exactly.
sharks
Very
can't
simple.
come to you. I don't know if you knew that. The sharks cannot come to you. You have to go to where the sharks are. So that just affects my opinion and thoughts on this movie in general. This movie also, frankly, I don't even know why this movie was on Shudder. Was this a horror movie? Was this a suspenseful movie? I don't know.
Well, I do have to say that there is one part that did make me actually jump and then
Was it the
laugh.
torpedo shark?
Oh, no, that part I just laughed and was upset about. But the first time that the shark leaps and like bites the front of the boat, the first time that
Yeah.
happens, and then they immediately like actually used footage of a real shark that looked good and made me go like, did they actually get a real shark to bite a boat?
Of
Because
course
it
not.
happened so quickly, but I was like, oh, and it actually like scared me, and that is why I gotta have a skull.
Yeah, this I'm pretty sure that with the exception of some strong language, like, I'm pretty sure that's all you'd have to edit on this movie, and you could very easily show the entire thing on basic cable, maybe even like broadcast network in prime time.
Oh, I was
Again,
thinking
just changing.
Lifetime.
Yeah, just changing some of the language. Like, it's barely, I mean, even as shark movies go, it's barely violent or bloody or gory. It's barely suspenseful. And again,
Yeah.
it's a fucking shark movie. There's only so much you could have ever done with a shark movie, and we've already done all of it a jillion times. If we were talking, like you said, about a movie there's the serious shark movie like the Reef Stalked, which is a big mistake, and then there's the ridiculous shark movie. You got your Sharknadoes and your Mega Shark and your Mecha Shark and all the like sand sharks. Oh no, now the shark can come out of the water onto the land. Okay, now I'm in for this. Let's see what's going on here.
Yep.
But yeah, an absurd, ridiculous shark movie I get. But there's just nothing about this whatsoever that, like, I'll be totally honest with you, I barely paid attention to the last 20 to 30 minutes of this movie. I got up and started doing basic cleanup chores in my house because I was so completely disconnected from it. I had no concern whatsoever for anything that was happening here. I didn't care a single bit about any of these people. There was nothing involving about the movie at all. I didn't even care for you can't even say there was like some cool photography, because even the photography of the reef and the islands was sort of boring and uninvolving. And then, like, again, the torpedo shark. Holy shit. Michelle, how did you react to torpedo shark?
I I think that I wanted to laugh, but I was just so upset at
Right.
that point. I'd watched so much of this movie and it was just like, really?
Yeah.
I was more like upset that they did that to us.
Right. So if you haven't actually watched the movie, there's one scene in particular where, by and large, the shark's behavior at least seems consistent with what I know about shark behavior from shark movies. I don't know shit about real sharks or how they behave. And it's doing its thing. Some of the inserts and the way they put the shark footage and the people footage together is really obvious and cheap and kind of... but everything seems mostly, at least you understand what they're doing. And then there's just one point out of the blue where all of a sudden the shark is like 3 times as fast as it's ever been, and it just torpedoes itself nose first into their boat. And it's like yes, I did laugh, I did chuckle out loud a bit, but ultimately I was frustrated because I was like, man, if this whole fucking movie had just been Torpedo Shark, if it had been Sharkpedo,
Yep.
this would have been my kind of movie, and I could have at least laughed and had fun. And then on top of all the, oh god, we've seen it a zillion times shark movie shit that's going on here, there's also this real, what I felt was a real sort of lame put on attempt at like a larger context story in the drama. I didn't buy any of it. How about you? Did any of that register with you at all?
So this movie really upset me, so I typed up like 4 pages of notes while watching
Oh,
it.
do tell. I've been
Uh,
trying to just ramble in here about how much I
no,
hated this movie.
I'm saying like a lot of it is like comments like, "Oh, I'm glad that they reminded us that her sister died because I keep forgetting she ever existed."
Yeah.
She like your sister was drowned and now you're afraid to go into the ocean.
Right.
Um,
Also, the description of the movie says she witnessed her sister's murder. No, she didn't.
she witnessed
She
the murder scene,
right.
I
She found her
guess.
sister's corpse in the bathtub, but she didn't witness the murder.
They
Uh,
also, this movie takes place in Australia, where everything is trying to kill you all the time. She
mm-hmm.
has no situational awareness. You already think
None.
that your sister is in a bad relationship. You go there, the husband or partner of whatever of the sister is he has a bit of blood on his face and he says like she made me do it or whatever, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't leave at that point because you're like, oh, everybody's trying to kill me at all times because I'm in Australia, including this man who I'm already uncomfortable around. And then she has the same situation with the shark where the shark's like, bitch, get out of the water. And she's like, no, I think I'll stay.
Right.
I
And
I wanted a Stalked movie where she had dated the shark and things went horribly wrong. And now that the shark won't stop calling her in the middle of the night and just letting his shark breath play over the phone. And she's like, oh no, it's Henry again. I
oh, I would
wanted
have been
that
into that.
movie. That would have been so much better.
I for sure would have been into that for sure.
I just want a
Um,
shark romance for
yeah,
sure.
I don't know. It just I don't. I'm curious to know how this movie connects with the original film, if at all,
Hmm.
because it's so like I don't know. I find myself wondering if maybe the girl who gets killed at the beginning is sort of a holdover character from the original, and that's like a loose connection, and that's all there is to. I don't know. It
I
clearly
know.
wanted so much to be like, oh, a metaphor for violence against women, and I'm not against that sort of thing in theory, but like it felt so put on here, like, oh, for no reason at all. There's that moment where they just happen to talk about how, oh, they call the shark the man in the gray suit, and it's like, oh, parallels between the man who killed the woman and the shark who killed the woman. Oh, I get it. It felt so forced and put on. I think
Hmm.
it could have been done successfully, but it was not done successfully here at all.
A big thing is I think I got this vibe like it was trying to be about female empowerment and being strong, and like the younger sister being like, I'm so strong, look at me. And
Right.
like after she's in shock and then immediately snaps out of it and is just like super powered, ready to fight this shark with her bare fists. But I got that vibe, and it was just like this movie was saying that all men suck because the women are on the island and they're like, our husbands left us. We don't even have ways to contact anybody in the case of an emergency. Like
Right.
my daughter gets bitten by a shark. We didn't think of a contingency plan. And then the man at the beginning kills the lady, and then there's no other men in this movie except the shark, and clearly he's bad. I'm assuming that the shark is a dude and that my dating romance is what happened in the
Oh,
first
I
movie and
yeah.
that this is a holdover from it. I'm really, really hoping that the reef is about like their first date. and
Yeah,
it's at a restaurant called the Reef.
that would be fan. I want to see this series now where
I
there's
know.
the first movie is she meets and dates a shark and then it goes bad, and then the second
Mhm.
movie is like she's being stalked by the shark. You
Yep,
may be onto something here, Michelle. I think you
I
need to
really
start
am.
writing a script immediately.
Yep. The
If
third movie, it's gonna be called The Reef. It's finished. Fin finished. And it'll be the
yeah, yeah,
last in the series.
I think we all
I should probably stop at two
we
movies.
all we all caught what you were doing there with the
Yep. It's
finished.
finished.
Oh
Fit.
God,
Do you get it?
yeah. So
I I
yeah,
am
I
really
mean,
sad that when they looked at the very small boat, somebody didn't say you're going to need a bigger boat because that
yeah.
would have given me a quarter more skulls to my
I mean, they
score.
took
I
everything
promise.
else from Jaws. They might as well have
Yeah.
taken the dialogue as well, you
God,
know?
upsetting. I was so upset about this movie.
Yeah, it was just I look, the only way I could possibly see that this is worth your time is if you happen to be that person who is profoundly obsessed with shark movies and has to see literally every single shark movie. Well, then obviously you're going to give 92 minutes to The Reef Stalked, but I can't imagine any situation where I would suggest that this would be a movie worth watching.
Yeah, I did look at the credits very intensely because I was hoping to find out what the name of the shark was because clearly there was some live action shark footage. I was hoping they would have included the shark in the cast like they sometimes do, like as a fun, like if somebody has a dog, they're like, oh,
His name is
uh,
Sharpedo.
Sharpedo. That was an improv scene. But in the cast, there is no shark listed, but there is motorcycle rider, and I don't remember a single motorcycle in this movie.
I don't either, now that I
There's
think about
only
it.
12 people in the cast or something
A
along that. I went to
motorcycle
IMDb
rider.
to verify, and the only people listed are the four women who are like the core group after the sister dies, and then the guy who killed the sister. The sister isn't listed on IMDb. The island women and their children aren't listed on IMDb. The shark isn't listed on IMDb, and neither is motorcycle rider Stephen Daddo. And I have a
Weird.
lot of questions. I'm
You
gonna have
know,
to rewatch it and keep an
this is
eye
the
out for the
most. This is the
motorcycle
most. Yeah,
rider.
this is the most interesting thing about the Reef Stalked is wait, where
Yeah,
was the motorcycle
I
rider?
know. I hope it was another shark. Oh, maybe the shark was a motorcycle rider in the first movie, and the shark's name is Steven Daddow. That is his credit, and we just don't know because this is
Oh,
the sequel. We ruined it for ourselves.
you might be onto something.
I'm gonna
So
go watch the first one. I am.
I'm sure you can tell by our utterly tepid tone that man, we really picked a good movie to force ourselves to watch early and then review early to get one out to the audience in the middle of the day on a Friday. Man, what was
I
I
woke up at
thinking?
6 a.m. for motorcycle rider shark Steven Daddow.
Unreal. Yeah, so that's the Reef Stalked, guys.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a relief that it's over.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, man. No,
Yep,
even that was better than the Reef Stalked. Yeah,
thank
I
you.
had to stop
High
and think for a
standards.
moment. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So beyond
Whew.
that, a couple of weeks back, we also watched a movie called Good Madam. That if you listen to that episode, you will remember left us with some questions and some lingering thoughts about what might be going on in the movie and like how much really was as uncomfortable as it plays and for what reasons and how much of it is like how much of our reaction was informed by our lack of awareness. The movie's about post-apartheid South Africa and race relations going on in that era. And so we decided we were going to do a little looking into it and come back and see if the movie really was as potentially problematic as we felt it might be, or if there were just some things happening there that we weren't aware of or privy to. Michelle, what did you find out about Good Madam? How did your exploration of things on this film go so far as finding out more about what you hoped to know?
So I read a lot of articles from people in the movie, and I didn't find anything, which doesn't say that it's not out there, but I didn't find anything where a cast member or a member of the production team or anybody felt that they didn't like it. I did find a lot of people who had seen the movie and didn't like it and felt like there were some problematic elements to it, which we
Mm-hmm.
really discussed in Good Madam a lot.
Sure.
But the people involved didn't state that publicly, as far as I could find, and there was even a co-writer. For people who haven't listened, the big controversy was that this was a directed, partially written, and camera worked, whatever, about
Photographed
cinematography.
by, yeah.
Photographed. Okay, yes.
Uh,
Photographed by a white
but
woman, and it was about black themes, and so we were concerned about that, but it also wasn't a great movie, so we wanted to
right.
do some research and just look into it a little bit. So I
Yeah,
just found very middling stuff.
yeah, and I again, sort of the same was my experience. This was clearly a collaborative effort from a writing perspective is her name Jenna Cato Bass, I believe was the name.
Yes. Yep.
Cato Bass, the last, I don't remember. I know it's a J name. Anyway,
I think it's Jenna.
yeah, she was the director and cinematographer. She also co-wrote the movie. And I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the other name from memory, but I'm going to bring it up here because I want to be respectful of that lady. But she co-wrote it with a South African lady of color. And one thing I did want to point out is, as it turns out, the one thing that I observed that was correct is, yes, the reason there are like 12 people listed as writers on this film is because it was, in fact, highly improvised. They started with a scene breakdown of everything they wanted to like happen in the scene, a structure that was playing out. But a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the interaction was very improvised, and thus they gave everybody in the cast some credit there on the writing of the film. And of course, the Shudder listing doesn't tell me who the other writer was. Thanks, Shudder. Let's find out.
I was gonna say I can get you the name.
I appreciate it. But I guess
Yeah.
ultimately the conclusion I came to after reading some insights from both writers and interviews where they were.
I do have the name. Sorry.
What is the name?
I I'm so sorry if I mispronounce it. I'm trying my hardest. Babalwa Bartman.
Okay.
Babalwa Bartman.
Okay, and so what I came to is that I think a certain amount of or like definitely a certain amount of my reaction to the film is perhaps informed by an American perspective and the way things are happening in our culture right now. It definitely seems, from what I read, that it was very much a collaborative process between those two from a writing perspective. There are definitely some perspectives from people of color going on here. Again, I'm curious what we might be seeing subconsciously maybe in some of the cinematography, as has been pointed out by a lot of critics. I remember the very first review we both talked about on that original episode discussed a decent amount of troubling photography. And again, I get the feeling more so now that maybe that experience was intentional, and that maybe just because of the particular perspective we're coming from with American culture and the way those things are being addressed right now, maybe is just a little bit unpalatable for people from that particular perspective, which is totally valid, of course. I guess what I'm saying is I still don't necessarily understand where the movie is coming from or what it's trying to say, but I feel a little bit more comfortable about the fact that it's at least not as intentionally or overtly problematic as it felt like it might be.
Yep, I agree.
I think is kind of what I'm trying to say there. I do very much, interestingly, kind of want to go back and watch it again now after having read some of the things I've read, because I feel like I did learn a decent amount about post-apartheid racial relations in South Africa, in particular as it applies to these sort of domestic assistance situations. Apparently, there is quite a bit of apartheid gone in name only, and things are still as it is, of course, everywhere, and as it has been in America since, like, yeah, the Civil War was 100 and some odd years ago, and we We had the civil rights movement 50, 60 years ago, and it's still a nightmare struggle every single day. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting perspective. Not everybody's going to appreciate where things are coming from all the time. I've definitely sung the praises of movies that other people have been real troubled by how they presented things, but
Like The Sadness? Because I still
yeah,
love that movie. I love that
that
movie.
movie. Yeah, believe me, I contend with my own opinions on that movie on a semi-regular basis. But oh man,
Yeah.
was it a good time? It's ooh,
It's
it's
I do have to say that it is something that as horror fans, and especially like people who love horror, you do often have to be like, this is problematic, and I know that, and it's intentionally problematic, and I feel conflicted, but I also think that's
yeah,
partially usually the horror experience where you're supposed to feel conflicted and horrified by what you're seeing. I think it's more interesting when these issues are more in the making part of it, like how
oh
much
sure,
was problematic from a real life standpoint instead of people, living in this fantasy world that was created for the sake of entertainment. And I do like having these deeper discussions and
oh
learning
yeah.
about that
Yeah, and
aspect of
that's
things.
interestingly is something that Scott and I discussed recently on my other podcast, All Screens Great and Small. Just something where like it's not a massive part of the conversation right now, and I understand why it's not, and now is not the time for it in the overall conversation in our culture in general. But an important thing that we are going to have to talk about at some point is the importance and value of intent.
Hmm.
From both directions, as I said on that show. Just because you were offended doesn't mean somebody intended to offend, but also just because you didn't intend to offend doesn't mean people weren't horrifically offended. And
Hmm.
that just how that needs to at some point be a part of the conversation. But yeah, I think that's there are absolutely things in movies that I have seen that are movies that I love, but are movies that I have to immediately say, oh man, this is not something everybody should watch. This is
Hmm.
something that is definitely problematic on a number of levels. But yeah, being open to those conversations is exactly what I hope we're able to do. And I think you can find the ones where, as we ultimately did here with Good Madam, movies where they at least push that envelope enough that it forces you to be like, oh, I actually need to learn something here. Like whether or not the movie itself was very successful, and I still agree, I wasn't terribly taken with it as just a movie in general, but
Hmm.
it did at least push forward that thought that like, oh, here's a gap in my knowledge and awareness that I should probably fill up a little bit, and I definitely give it credit for that.
Uh, to circle it back, I think that in a few weeks we should come back and talk about what we have learned about sharks after watching the Reef Stalked and see if I just want to come back with some shark facts because I like sharks. I think they're neat.
Sharks. We talk about our
Which
favorite.
is also my way of adding levity to what is a very serious topic so that we end
Yeah,
on a note that people are like, oh, you
yeah.
know, because we're
One
just silly
one
people.
that's what we do on We Watch Shudder. One week we're going to be talking about race relations in post-apartheid South Africa, and the next
Mhm.
week we're going to be talking about dating sharks.
Yeah, because you and I
That's
are very what's the word that I'm looking for?
we're
Like we like
cultured.
well, no, we just like to be informed and educated and sometimes like we get in our heads a lot about that and then it
Oh
comes
yeah.
out on this show where we're like we're talking about just absurd horror and then we get a little in our own heads about it.
I well,
Or
and
at
I
least
also.
I do. I think for a long time after our episodes about like different
Oh yeah. Oh
things.
yeah. Absolutely. It's like, oh man, there's definitely things to really dissect. And well, so
Yeah.
this has been another wonderful therapy session. And we watch
Yeah.
Shudder for Michelle and JD. Thank you for being our armchair therapists, guys.
Yeah, I'll be curious if anybody actually liked hearing this part of the discussion because if this is your first episode that you listen to, which I just told a lot of my coworkers about this show, and if this is what you started with, I'm sorry or you're welcome depending
I
on.
think the more important question, Michelle, is we're like 21 episodes deep. Why are you just telling your coworkers about the podcast?
Because I have to preface everything I say with I am a very different person at
No,
work.
believe me,
We are different people.
there are people in my life who still don't know this exists, and they will never know.
Yeah, there are a lot of things. Do not Google me by my maiden name, coworkers, which they will definitely go do now. But then they're gonna find the tuba player from the Fargo Orchestra, who is not me, and all of the things that she has done. Because there's a person with my same name. I've gotten her invoices for dog poop group before, which was very awkward.
Fun. All right, so what are we talking about next week, Michelle?
You always do this to me.
I
but
do.
I was ready this time. It's what Josiah saw. What did he see?
Josiah saw.
Did he see Saw, the movie, so then he could say he saw Saw?
I figure immediately I wish it was what Josiah sawed, like, because that just sounds weird and people would be like, that's not the way you're supposed to say it. And be like, it is if you're talking about what he sawed off with a great big hacksaw.
Wow. That's true. When I write my shark series that will make me famous, I will definitely come to you for some of the ideas of places that I am stuck at when we crowdsource and find out that people don't like It's Finished as the last movie title.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the shark romance, you're onto something here. Make it happen, Michelle.
I think I am. I just need to find some sharks and a camera and I'm ready.
Stacy, you can't fall in love with him. Can't you see? That's not a dude. That's 3 sharks in a trench coat.
But I love him so much. Oh, so it's also a polyamorous relationship. Wait, so if it's 3 sharks in a trench coat, which one is she dating? And that's a whole other aspect, where people have to accept that not only is she dating a shark, but she is dating 3 sharks.
Oh, we've definitely gone off the rails completely. Say good night. Say good afternoon, Michelle.
Good afternoon, Michelle.